How would you categorize the life of a former Catholic priest who is now living an openly gay life? Make a mental list. Are you ready? As I was preparing for this video, I had to take a step back and look at what my perspective was in the past when I was in religion, specifically when I was in Catholicism, and more specifically when I was in a traditional community known as the SSPX. That was the community that I would later join as a member of the hierarchy. I was a priest. Whenever anyone left the community, it was always seen as an act of rebellion, that they did something wrong, that they weren't faithful. And then there was this reaction like,
oh, wow, that's a shame. Poor soul.
Like they're condemned to hell already or something. But life outside was darkness, ignorant. There was no God. There was emptiness. There was excesses of every kind, especially sexual, because we all know the Catholic obsession with sex and sexuality. From my own experience, I remember that feeling that I would get after I committed a sin. So when I did something wrong, if it was bad enough, the church said that God was no longer in your soul. So there was that emptiness. And I remember that feeling, that horrible feeling, and I would do anything to get God back into my soul. And there was this anxiety and depression and guilt, so much guilt. So in my head, I related that feeling of separation from God as separation from the church, from the community in general. Those people on the other side of the fence felt like I did when I sinned. I hope you were able to follow that. So I think one main assumption of my life now is that I live with hatred against the community, against the church, against the priest, against God. No. If it was against God or the church, it'd be like being angry at McDonald's for selling you bad hamburgers and greasy fries and making you fat. It's pointless. But if we're talking about the members of the church, the hierarchy, the priests, the superiors, the ones that I personally had contact with, then we can have a discussion. I can look at their actions towards me and see where they failed in their position and their promise, but never with hate. I don't hate them. I feel sorry for them. Believe me, if I didn't decide to make public my story and my experiences, I would have been so happy to just move on, start a new chapter, forget the past. But because I decided that it was better for me to go over these experiences publicly to help people, I do have to relive them all the time. But I don't want hate to be the center focus of that. Closely related to the first is this need to live in a state of constant victimhood. Like I have to justify my decision for leaving the church and the priesthood and religion in order to make myself feel good and satisfied. No. Being honest and realistic are two qualities that I hold very dear now and before. So Catholicism taught me that if I sinned, it was because I wasn't faithful to God in the moment of temptation. I chose the action over God, and I put an obstacle in the way of God to help me resist that temptation. So if I sinned, it was my fault. And then follows blaming oneself and feeling guilty. And because this is such a normal cycle that happens in the life of Catholics every single day, I'm sure that they expect me to have those same feelings of guilt and blaming myself for losing my faith. Although I can never say that I was perfect even a little bit. I did try. But then what usually happens is that person who left the church and can see where they were unfaithful and they obsess over it and they have so much guilt about it and they blame themselves, they overcompensate. They just point the finger at everyone else. God did this, the church did this, the priest did this. They live in this constant victimhood in order to make themselves feel okay with their decision to leave the church. Seeing what aspects really made you a victim, or living in that overemphasized and extreme victimhood, are two different things. Some people really are victims. Another aspect that I'm sure people think that if I don't have now, I will have in the future, is that immense sense of emptiness, of not having God in my life. To be honest, leaving my community, leaving religion, did cost me a lot. Imagine, since the age of 15, my whole life turned inward to God as my center, the religion as my center, the community as my center. All aspects of my life, my education, my career, the priesthood, my economic stability, family, friends, contacts, everything depended on God and that religious community. And then in one seemingly small decision, I was left with a gaping hole in my life. And it hurt. And this one, I think, is probably the biggest assumption about my life right now. And it makes me smile every time someone makes a comment. And that is sex and sexuality. I'm sure that some of the people are just projecting. They think,
if I wasn't a Catholic, I would do this and this, and I'd experiment with that, and why not?
They think that now that I've left the church, that must be the main reason why. Because I don't want to have the feeling of oppression and the rules, and now that I'm liberated and free, I just do whatever the heck I want. It's funny because even in the seminary, when I was confronted with a idea, a regulation, I wanted to know why. At that point, I had already studied philosophy and psychology enough that I wasn't just satisfied with a statement. I needed to understand the implications in each of the words, in context, and everything like that. So for example, sleeping around is a sin in Catholicism. Okay, why? Why is it a sin? Because sex before marriage is bad. It's outside of the order of God, and okay, yeah. But why is it not good for the person to have many partners, to not make a commitment before having sex? I've come to the conclusion that it's better for me. It makes me happy. It makes sense to use sex as an expression of something that was previously present, i.e., love. So if the love and the commitment are not there, sex is out of order. If I focus too much on that, it's going to not make me happy because there's so much more. It's like focusing on money. Like, money is not going to make you happy. Money is a means to another thing. And with sex and pleasure of anything like that, it's momentary and it's gone. And then you're stuck with all the problems you had before. Anything that I do now, even something as innocent as holding the hand of another man, is going to be considered an extreme for somebody from my past. So it's not like I'm trying to convince anyone that I'm still acting in a Catholic way. Obviously, that's not what I'm trying to do here. In conclusion, This is not my defense of my case. I don't have to prove to anyone that I'm a decent person. My actions speak louder than my words. I don't even have to go back to the people of my past, whoever it is, and try to convince them that I'm a good person. I just have to make sure that from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed, I'm trying my best. That's it. And that's why I wanted to share with you what my life is really like and not following the assumptions that I know people have. If there's anything else about this subject you want me to talk about, leave a comment below and I'll try to answer the best I can, considering it's in good faith. Like the video, subscribe. There's more content on my page if you want to go back and watch my other videos. And if you really want to support me and this page, because Am Judas Project is brought to you by me and anyone who donates to me on Ko-fi. Ko-fi is a type of Patreon-like page where you can donate. There's special content for those people who are donating. I'm currently uploading pages from my book that I want to publish. Besides all of that, thank you. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next time.